My students of economics, Namukongo Secondary Vocational School, Senior 5, you are most welcome to our second session. Previously, in our first session, we looked at inflation. We looked at the definition of the term inflation, which we said is the persistent increase in the general price level of goods and services over a given period of time. We went ahead and looked at how you can compute inflation, and we looked at two methods: the use of the price index and then the use of GDP. Then we went ahead and looked at what we call the inflationary rate, and we said the rate at which inflation increases, how prices increase. Then we went ahead and looked at what we call the state of inflation, and we looked at three categories: how inflation increases. We looked at what we call mild or creeping, which we said increases at a rate of 10%, and that one we said it is desirable in an economy. And we went ahead and looked at what we call running or what we call moderate inflation, which we said increases between 10 and 20. But we said that that one affects the poor negatively, meaning that they do not enjoy their standard of living as usual. Then we went ahead and looked at what we call hyper, and another name for hyper is gulping. If you don't want to use the word gulping, you can use runaway inflation, where we say that this is the type of inflation where the general prices increase at a very high rate, and the rate is always over 20% per annum. And I say that this type of inflation is not desirable in an economy, because the standard of living of the people is affected negatively, meaning that those who are poor cannot afford to buy certain goods because of the high price. Now, I want us to proceed in our second session, the theories or causes of inflation. There are so many things which we are going to look at that really cause inflation. These theories can also be called causes of inflation. It is from these theories that we can derive the causes of inflation. And we are going to look at some of them, and then we shall begin explaining one by one. One of the theories of inflation is what we call cost push inflation. What causes the prices to increase beyond is the cost of production. Cost of production. So when cost of production increases, definitely the prices for goods and services also have to increase. If you put in much in the production process, it is a must that it will have a direct effect on the price of goods and services. I want to give a simple illustration here. If you used 3,000 to produce a chapati, and you are an entrepreneur, definitely you need some profit. We can assume you want 500 as profit, meaning that when you add the profit plus the cost, your chapati will be around 3,500. But if the cost of producing a chapati was at 300, and you want a profit margin or possibly 200 shillings, what will be the cost of a chapati? The cost of a chapati will be 500 shillings. So the higher the cost, the higher the price. So if the cost is high, even the prices are likely to be high. If the cost is low, even the price is likely to be low. Therefore, in case A, we shall have higher inflationary rates because of the cost of production. Then in situation B, the rate of inflation will be low, meaning that if it is low, it will fall under the category of mild. If it is under the mild category, it means here more people will buy the chapatis, and therefore their standard of living will be maintained. In case A, because the chapati is very expensive, many people are likely to go away with the chapati. Therefore, here the cost of living is going to be affected. Those who have been taking it too will either buy nothing and sleep on an empty stomach. So, if you sleep on an empty stomach, will you survive well? Definitely the survival will be for the fittest, those who can afford only under category A. But here, almost everyone will be able to afford. And therefore, that's why we say that under mild type of inflation, where prices are low, the standard of living is maintained, and therefore such a type of inflation is desirable in an economy. Under B, because many people cannot afford, the standard of living is going to be high, and many people will be pushed out of that system of buying, and therefore their standard of living will be high, and therefore we can categorize this as being hyper type of inflation, which scares away many people who would wish to buy goods and services. That is what we are calling cost push. It is the cost that pushes the prices up. Then we have what we call demand pool. Demand pool. It is the demand that pushes the prices high. Many of you have always lived in town, I know. And I want to give a scenario here where you are in a taxi park and it is the rush hour. You are in the old taxi park or in your park, in your locality. It is rush hour and it is threatening to rain. There are so many people who want to board the taxis. If, for example, there are only 2 taxis in the old taxi park for Namugongo state, and you are over 200 people who want to board, what will happen? People will have to struggle to enter the taxi. And if you have to struggle, it means that the demand is so high. Therefore, the taxi operators will play on your psychology and say, those who want to go to Namugongo, please, if the normal price, the normal fee has been 5,000, they'll push it to 15,000 as an elimination method. Those who have 15,000, please board, because the demand is so high. And within no minute, the taxi will be full. And then the rest will have to wait a little longer. That is what we are calling demand. If you go to a market and you find only 2 bunches of matoke, and you have 10 people who want to eat matoke, if the person has been selling the matoke at 10,000, he will increase the price to possibly maybe 30,000, such that he can eliminate the rest. This is what we are saying, that because of the high demand, it pushes the prices up, which is very dangerous and has a negative effect on the price and therefore the standard of living. Then we have what we call structural inflation. Structure. This one is caused by supply rigidities. When you are not able to get the supplies, for example, if it is raw materials, getting the raw materials is hard. And if it is hard, it means even the raw material will be expensive. There are times, I remember, some 2 years back, the tomatoes were very expensive because we were not getting the supplies from the farmers. Recently, the onions, the prices for onions has gone up because the supply is not there. So, because of the supply rigidities, it causes the prices to go up automatically. Whether you want or not, the prices have to go up because there is no steady supply. Then, we can also have another theory called imported inflation theory. If you get goods from a country that is already experiencing inflation, assuming you are going to buy second-hand clothes from America, and America is already experiencing inflation. One cloth is maybe at 10,000. This one is already including inflation. When you bring it to Uganda, the price will not remain the same. Because as a business person or a businesswoman, you need profits. So you add 5,000. If you add 5,000, it means that if this country is already experiencing inflation, when you bring that same cloth here, the price is almost going to double that you are going to sell to the final consumer. When it doubles, definitely it will be accelerating what we call the inflation, because you are going to sell at a higher price. This is what we are calling the imported inflation theory. We also have what we call the monetary inflation. Monetary inflation. When the government spends a lot of money and is saturated within the economy, the level of aggregate demand increases. Aggregate demand, that is the total demand for goods and services. When people have a lot of money, it means that even the suppliers and the traders are going to increase the prices for goods and services because they see the population is rich. So, the moment banks give out a lot of credit to the people, it means the amount of money in circulation is going to be high. Therefore, the purchasing power for goods and services is going to increase. And the moment the traders also identify that the purchasing power is high, definitely they will increase the prices for goods and services. If you have been attending to these seminars with a customer there, cinemas, and they have been charging maybe 5,000, and they discover that you have a lot of money, they are going to double the price to possibly 10,000. This is what we are talking about as monetary inflation. It arises as a result of the economy having a lot of money in circulation. And there are many things that cause too much money in the economy. One of them being high government expenditure. Look at how government is spending today. They are spending a lot of money on administration. They are spending a lot of money on civil servants. They are spending a lot of money on many other things that are not productive in the economy. And therefore, because of that, there is too much money in circulation. Therefore, the people who are offering services in the economy are increasing the price such that you can also get something from those who have. Then we also have what we call speculative inflation. This is the type of inflation where people anticipate that prices are likely to increase. When you anticipate a rise in price, people tend to buy more now. Why do they buy more? It's like that possibly they do not pay a higher price in the near future. So they pay now. So because of that, they tend to increase the prices. Another theory is what we call wage theory. This wage theory is a theory where people who are in active service tend to look at their colleagues in other departments earning a lot of money. And because they see them earning a lot of money, they also tend to agitate for a higher pay. And the moment the suppliers and traders discover that this company is paying this and they have also increased the other people's salaries, they also tend to increase the goods and services, such that they can also benefit from the wage that they are being offered. That's what we call wage inflation. When people get a lot of money in the form of salaries, it can increase inflation. Because first of all, it increases their purchasing power. They have the ability to buy. And the moment people see that you have the ability to buy, they tend to increase the salary. I mean the prices for goods and services. That one is also related to what we call wage price. The moment they increase your salary, the people who are selling goods also increase their prices. Then you also have what you call price wage. All these three are related. Now, we are going to look at these theories one by one. And we are going to go to the first theory called cost push inflation. Cost push inflation, as I said at the beginning, is the persistent increase in the general price level due to rising cost of production. When the cost of production increases, indirectly it pushes the prices high. There are many scenarios I've mentioned here that when the cost of production, for example, if the cost of chalk increases from maybe 5,000 to 10,000, that is the cost, the money you are putting. Definitely, those who are going to buy the chalk, they can't buy it at 10,000. They'll buy it at possibly maybe 15 or 20. What would have caused that increment is because of the cost of production. So, that is what we call cost push inflation. Now, what causes the prices to rise under cost push? There are so many causes here that can lead to a rise in the cost of production. One of them is the rising cost of raw materials. The things which you are going to use to produce the product, the moment its price increases, it will have a direct connotation on the price, whether you want or not. Because when they are computing the price, they look at the cost. How much have you put in? And then they determine the price. And remember, the business community wants profits. So they have to include some margin of profit. That one increases the cost of production. And if the cost of production increases, even the end product has to be priced highly. Then two, the rising wages and salaries. I've already mentioned this, that when the prices of goods, when the wages or salaries of workers increase, the people who give us the goods to use in our homesteads also rise the goods, because they assume that our purchasing power has increased. The moment your purchasing power increases, definitely even the cost of goods also have to increase, because you have the money to pay. You are not a lumpen. You have so many things in your pocket, and you need to get rid of them. So they also charge you by increasing the prices for goods and services. I want to stop here for the meantime. That is the end of our second session. I want to ask you and ask the entire community, please subscribe to our website, YouTube website, and get the education during this lockdown, free of charge. Just what you need is only data. Then you get the content from the teachers of Namugongo Secondary and Vocational School. Please read hard. I have not exhausted all the points, but you can go ahead and read. I thank you very much for listening. I wish you the best.